Yeah, that's from a parody of Them Bones by Alice in Chains, and we did a song called Them Beans, which probably never deserves to be played. Oh, you can't hear me. Was that you singing?
Now, I could, Them Beans. No, that's Ben.
Is it Ben? Oh, yeah.
Ben
yeah.
Carlstrom. Yep.
Okay.
Ben Carlstrom. Yeah.
All right. Spike O'Neill joins me. Let's welcome Downtown Joe and talk about our guest. Our special guest this week is BJ SHEA. BJ SHEA from KISW, the morning show host who's been there ever since, well, I'll let him tell you that story. He began in Seattle at the Buzz 100.7 FM and has been one of the biggest rockinest morning shows. And the backstory is that we were friends many years ago, decades ago. All three of us were friends with BJ SHEA before he came to Seattle. So he will tell you we helped his career. And I will tell you, he helped our careers tremendously. Before we bring BJ SHEA on, let's make sure we got everybody. We got me. I'm a Trekkie today because BJ and I are both Trekkies. Spike, who is wrong. Why did you write Spike is wrong?
I just like to remind myself that I don't know everything.
You don't have you don't have a co-host for that?
That's yes, I do. No, it's a lesson in humility.
That's good. That's good.
A never-ending lesson.
And Downtown Joe, media teacher guy, Downtown Joe, you are, I posted this the other day. You are right now living your best life in your second career as a media teacher at Mercer Island High School. You have taken that program and made it one of the most exciting things a high school kid can do with media. And you are a mentor to all these children, and they all love you. Are you having fun?
I am beat. I am tired. No, I'm having a blast. But I will tell you, being a teacher the week before graduation, you're about done, and so are the kids. It's like, couldn't we just shave a week or two off of school and call it good? But yeah, I'm having a blast, and I feed off the energy. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Folks, check out on Facebook. Joe's students made him an end of year video about how much he is meaning to their lives and how much they look up to him. It's a beautiful thing. It'll bring a tear to your eye, and then Joe bawled his eyes out, according to Joe. Did you really cry?
Just not the first time I saw it, because I was in the back of the VFW hall with 100 parents, and I missed it up a little, but I've cried several times since. It means them a lot. And I see different kids, and, I have so many different ones doing different things, and some overcome a lot just to be able to crack a microphone and form a sentence. And some of them are going to go on to huge media careers, and they all mean a lot to me. So to see them all in a montage like that, and the kid who made it, Matthew Pangallo, I really got to thank, because he worked a couple months on that thing. Wow. And he's not even in my class anymore.
Okay. And did you know he was doing it?
I had no idea. No, in fact, he supposedly is making me a little sizzle reel to sell the program here, and he still is, because I knew he was working on something. And so I said, after it was done, I said, that was so wonderful. Are you still making the sizzle reel? Because I need that. And he's going and interviewing former students who are now in the industry and stuff for me. And so I'm looking forward to that one too. Right. But it meant a lot.
You have many students who've gone on to actual media careers, and even the ones who haven't. Let's be honest, we're all technology media representatives of ourselves. Every single person broadcasts globally on social media. All right.
Hey, before we bring on BJ, we can all, I think, remember back to somebody in our life, a teacher in our life, who made a difference in our life. Outside of a parent, teachers are probably the most influential adult in a kid's life. And the kids that have had Joe as a teacher, every one of them has benefited from it. And whether kids go on to media or whatever career or life they go into, the confidence and skills they develop in your class improve every aspect of their life, Joe. I fully believe that.
Let me double that, because when a teacher expresses confidence in you, as some did to me when I was just, in first and second grade, that's a lifetime.
It is.
That's a lifetime of energy you get from that. So, Joe, God bless you.
I believe in every single kid, and I believe in their potential until they let me down about 10 times, and then I say,
Then they
"You're
get
down here."
What's the lowest grade you give, though? You're not going to give anyone lower than a B. I feel like you're that teacher.
Well, at Mercer Island here, they're a high achieving bunch, and a B is enough to send some into a real panic. You know, I mean,
Their parents like, you've got a B? What happened?
yeah, most of them get A's, but they've got to earn it. But I like I said, I go on what's your abilities, and are you trying? Are you showing up? The only way to really not succeed in my class is to not come and just to not do. As long as you're trying and as long as you're getting better, you're going to be just fine.
All right, BJ Shea. Let's each say something special about BJ Shea. And, audiences may not know how close we actually are as friends because we're on stations across the street. I mean, BJ's been kind to us many times on the air, and we've sort of done the same. But we met him initially at a morning show conference, and we just connected somehow. And, well, Joe, we'll start with you. Your first memory of BJ.
Well, BJ was on a show called the Brother Wee's Morning Circus in Rochester, New York. And I still think that our show was more influenced by that show than any other show. We would get together once a year for a dinner, and I would come out of that dinner so fired up to come back to Seattle and be funny, because BJ and Wee's were just the funniest people pretty much I think that was ever on the radio. And those early memories now have been replaced by current memories of BJ serving on my advisory board here at KMIH, and we get together and share a meatball now and then and talk about the state of things. And he's the first guy that'll always help you out.
I don't want to fact check, but you don't share one meatball.
Well, they're pretty big. It's a pretty big meatball. I mean, actually, I think we usually get 3. He gives me 1 and he takes 2.
Okay. Spike, your BJ recollection. That doesn't sound right. But.
When we met BJ, he was literally my counterpart, my equal on the other side of the country. He was Brother Weeze's right-hand man, and I was your right-hand man. And seeing somebody that was so confident and so talented doing what I was doing, it was inspiring to me. And like Joe said, BJ might be the funniest guy I've met in my life. And he made Weeze better, and it gave me inspiration and confidence to help try to make what we did better. And watching BJ go on all these years to be his own talent is also something that's I've drawn encouragement, strength, and pride from. So
when we were at these morning show boot camps, and I'm not going to talk about him until he comes on, but BJ and I became nerd buddies, I think is the right way to put it. And we'll leave the stories for as we begin this discussion with the veteran morning show host at KISW, BJ Shea. BJ, welcome.
Thank you so much. What such kind words, and I feel compelled to say equally nice things about you guys. I just don't really.
But we don't have that kind of time.
I find that really you were all very, very annoying, and I just I thought, well, I'll let them hang out with me. Maybe that'll accomplish something in their lives. I say, really, thank you so much, guys. That's. Spike, I could say the same thing about you when I first met you. I thought one of the most talented guys I'd ever met, funny as all get out. And it was so great to, meet somebody who I was like, man, I love just getting together with somebody who I think can make me better. Joe taught me a completely different way to be entertaining and funny. And I just studied that a lot. Had no idea it would help me when I got to Seattle, because Joe being a Seattle native, basically. And Bob, what kind of career would I have had? None. I mean, you've been such a great advocate for me over the years. And when I shot myself in the foot, you were always there with first aid.
Let's stop licking each other's boots and tell the stories. Let's tell the stories.
There's a lot of stories. The only story is that in those days of morning show boot camp, everybody was drinking, carousing, and partying. You and I were the only ones that, if there was any social media back then, they would have been like, God, these 2 guys are boring. Let's go watch something else.
I remember an early morning show boot camp. You could tell a story where I believe all the rest of the guys and even gals, because I think maybe it was in Atlanta.
It was Atlanta. Cheetahs was the club. Yeah.
all decided to go to a strip club, and you and I looked at each other, and by the way, in later years we would actually go to one. That's hilarious too. But you and I looked at each other and went, "Why would we want to do that?" You remember what we did instead?
We went to go see Star Trek, I believe. Did we see a
There was
Star
a
Trek
new
movie?
Star Trek movie coming out.
Yeah. I mean, truth be told, Bob, here's the thing. Truth be told, because as a performer, you were legendary in the business, and I think I would have gone to do anything with you because of the opportunity to spend time with somebody who, frankly, was not. You were so far above my level. So when the opportunity came where everybody was doing X, Y, and Z, and then you said, "Hey, buddy, would you like to go do this?" And I'm like, yeah. I mean, because normally I couldn't get the time of day with somebody of your stature, which says so much for you. It was tough to break into somebody when you're a young person like myself, and I was a sidekick. And we're from Rochester, and here's a guy that just was. You were so successful in so many different markets, and you were like, "Hey, let's go hang out." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, this. Are you kidding me? This is a great opportunity," and you have been nothing but a great mentor, and I think now you've even allowed me to
but
be
no
a
more
friend.
looking. More stories.
Yeah,
Stories.
oh, you want
Clubs.
some stories?
I want
So
this
then we
podcast to
robbed the
I want
place.
this to be
We stole
no
the
real
movie.
truth. Real
We
truth.
bit an usherette's leg in the dark like a Warren Zevon song. And,
By the way, BJ, let me counterpoint because your story is, and this is an interesting thing, a study in human character. Your story was your perception of me. My perception was, here we are at this boot camp, and here's this crazy guy who will stand up and speak his mind. Remember, guys, some of the things BJ used to say? He used to stand up and insult programmers. He used to say, what you're saying is total BS. And he had this reality, which I think you probably got a little of that from Brother Weeze, where he would speak truth to power. I wish I could remember specific stories. Joe, you might remember a specific story. Remember how he used to tear down the whole room?
Well, I just remember anytime BJ or Spike would stand up, everybody else would go, "Oh no, here it comes." They were both kind of known for saying it like it was.
And
I think
go ahead.
Spike and I think unofficially said it's like once one of us spoke, the other one said, "Okay, it's on." We just had
It's exactly right.
That's exactly right.
We're going to tear this place apart. We'll show the rest of these guys, even these other hosts, they don't have anything on us.
And
I love that because I felt like I got a brother in arms over here with Spike.
So my counterpoint to what you said is I was a good show host. I worked hard on my radio voice. I, wrote song parodies. I produced stuff. And on the air, I was essentially a pretty even-handed host who didn't take strong opinions. So when I saw BJ taking strong opinions, I thought, oh, I'm too scared to do that. I need to hang out with him more and find out what his thought process is. So we were each hanging out with the other. And it's sort of like a 12-step program in a sense, because the other had something we wished we had. BJ was always getting fired by management, was always getting in trouble for what he said. And you would see me as management really likes this guy. And so in some way, I wanted to become edgier, and he wanted to become better businessman. I don't know.
I didn't know I wanted to become a better businessman. I just wanted to somehow stay at the same place and have some success.
Keep a job.
Keep a job.
Keep a job.
Have that down. Yeah. Like, Bob, suppose you go into work every day and they let you come in the next day. Can you tell me how that goes? Bob, funny. The funny thing, you talk about really circumstances. The reason I was the way I was the first time I went to that convention, and it's a story, I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but a week prior to going to that convention, I went to a baseball game in Cleveland and literally caught a very bad rash on a very sensitive part of my body. And I mean, to the point where driving home from Cleveland to Rochester, I was so itchy in this sensitive part of my body, I had to go to a drugstore and embarrassingly describe to the cashier, I need something for a certain part because it's on fire. And eventually I got to a doctor.
Okay,
and
this is a podcast, so you can say what the part was.
Yeah, I think, I mean, at this point, if you don't know what part of the body I'm talking about, you don't.
Well, it's got to be the rear or the front.
take a look at the face. Do you want me now to start describing what the rest of me looks
No,
like?
I actually don't. No, that's a good point. So,
So I eventually went to a doctor, and they gave me a steroid cream because nothing worked. Whatever they gave me at the drugstore, I slathered all over my body, and it was spreading too, Bob. It was
Okay.
like, oh my God,
I've
I'm
had
the
that.
walking dead.
And steroid, harsh steroid cream is the one thing that works. I'm surprised you went to a convenience store and not a pharmacy.
Well, eventually I had to go to a doctor because
Okay.
it didn't work. But I mean, when you're on the I-90, you're kind of like you're on the thruway. You got to get what you can get. Eventually, going to a doctor gave me the steroid. But this was like such a harsh steroid. I had no idea that it was making me aggressive, like I was in wrestling.
Oh,
And
so
Like
this
Roy
was
Jones.
wait a minute. This was a
and my
side
hubris-
effect of medication.
It was. I remember Weeze looking at me like, "What is wrong with you? Everything is bothering you." Like somebody gets up and says, "Hey, welcome to boot camp," and I'm like, "Shut up!" And I get upstairs. "Oh, I hate you, and I will kill your family.
Meanwhile, I'm standing there and going, "This guy has real balls. I wish I had balls."
I love him. Yeah.
I was saying the East Coast, they just do it different on the East Coast. Why
Yeah,
can't
East
you do
Coaster
it like
too.
that?
And a Bostonian.
And Weeze would say, that BJ, I think he's on his period again. Here he goes. That was always. So even though we looked like we were having fun, he was just like, will you please stop putting the spotlight on us? And but as it turns out, he goes on the stage and does his version of what he thinks is a great situation. Yeah. And
his host, by the way, BJ Shea, was inducted 2 years ago into the Radio Hall of Fame. Yeah. And by all accounts, he got up on stage with no script and tore the house down with his stories.
Oh, he was talking about somebody's breast surgery up there, and she did not want that. She didn't tell him the story, so he would go up and tell it in front of the Hall of Fame. That's just who he is. He's like, hey, anyway, let me tell you about this lady's boobs. Anyway, she's got. I mean, it's like somehow he's going to use that to accept his award for his great years of broadcasting by talking about her breasts, and somehow he did that. But he is a brilliant storyteller, and the story you tell about how you felt like your show was affected by what he did. So many people in the industry, Jeff and Jared, great radio show in San Diego, they also say the same thing.
Yeah.
I was so fortunate to work with him because what we had, I did not have in me till I started working with him and realizing, holy cow, this guy is doing radio completely different than anybody who's ever taught me. And management was frustrated, Bob. I fought with management all the time because I was the producer of the Weeze show, and he'd be like, you need to go talk to that guy and tell him to stop doing what he's doing. And the guy's got like a monster rating already, and he's making more money than all of us put together. And I just said to the manager, I go, look, here's how I know life works. The guy that makes the most money pretty much calls the shots. So why don't you stop bothering me? So he never got along after that. And
that's the testicular fortitude I wouldn't have had. I would have said, yes, sir, let me go speak with him. And then I would have spoke with him, and I would have said, I spoke with management, and they want you to stop talking about the receptionist's breasts. And there's ramifications. And he did catch serious flack at some points, but he's in the freaking Hall of Fame, and he did an amazing job. And at some point, you decided you wanted to do your own show, and that's how you got to Seattle, right?
Yes, I always wanted to do my own show. It's just, how it is in the world. You stepstone the way that you go about it. I know from early on, it feels like you've always hosted your own show because I followed you when we were both in Massachusetts and you were on WAAF. And my way in was basically producer and then sidekick. And I didn't get my own show until really after working with Weeze in Rochester. I went to San Francisco for a year, and then to Jacksonville, then to Phoenix because of you, because you recommended me to the company that you worked for at the time, and then bounced back to Rochester. And then the weird thing is that I was offered a job in Rochester. I lost one job, but I got another job offer. But then you came along, you little temptress, and you were like, BJ, there's a talk radio show opening, and I think you should be there. I'm like, and you're like, okay. I mean, they don't know who I am. They don't care about me. And you're like, don't worry about that. Leave that to me. And the story I love to tell is that Eric, who you guys,
Eric Corman, yes.
Eric Corman, yeah, a fantastic guy. Well, I really, really love Eric. Has no idea how to do radio though,
something I would never say to Eric. I think he's wonderful, but he's a calm, he's a calm, not divisive, no drama person. Which is these days, if you can't split people in two camps and have them chuck spears and torches and pitchforks at each other, it's hard to get an audience. But yes.
Yeah, I've told Eric this before. You thought I would be good to do this talk station, and so I only had the tape that I had. I was doing female targeted radio, sort of like a hey, the hits of the 80s and 90s, girls, and so I sent that along. Eric listens to it because the program director couldn't be bothered.
He was the assistant program director at Cairo, by the way. The irony of all this now is that Spike has his own show at the very same broadcast company that all of this happened at. So you said, I remember.
Thank God Eric isn't there. Spike, you might not be there if Eric was in charge.
Eric gets the tape. I remember this because I did the follow-up call. I said, Eric, did you hear my tape from my friend BJ? He said, yeah, I really didn't hear anything in it. And it really didn't have any pizzazz in it, blah, blah, blah. And he threw it in the trash. I said, all right, Eric, maybe so because of where he's working at. But let me just tell you this. When I meet this guy, even if we go into a Baskin Robbins, he is entertaining the $7, actually it used to be $5 an hour employees who are making our ice cream. And he's interviewing them and he's asking them, what they aspire to do with their lives. And and they all laugh at him. And I said, he can walk into any room and entertain someone and forget about the tape. You need to bring him out and have him audition. And, Eric, who became my right-hand man, by the way, and super important to the success of our show, Eric took my word and called you. Did he call you out for an audition or did you do it remotely?
Well, you remember that he worked for somebody else. I tell a different story than you do. I make you sound so much better.
We tell different stories about even each other. Like you're saying Bob was this huge thing, and I'm like, I wish I was as huge as he is. And had his balls.
I have a great story.
But now that I know that your balls were itching so much, I don't really wish that as much as I did.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you, get a little itchy down there, and you're going to be a hero. I tell everybody how you were my champion, how you threatened the company. You went to the program director that gave the job to Eric, and you said, I will never bring anybody to the station again unless you give my boy an audition. I really made you look like a hero.
Well,
and now I find out you're like, hey man.
I was diplomatic about it, but of course I was doing that. But I did it in diplomacy voice. I basically said
you stabbed people. I wanted you to be. I really wanted you to be the hero of the. Like
I don't remember exactly what came out of this, but I remember that they called you and you had an audition. I can't remember whether you flew to Seattle or you did it remotely.
They took me because the company owned some stations in Rochester, so they let me go audition in the station in Rochester. Yeah,
and from that one live experience,
they were like, "Oh, this guy may have something.
He's interesting."
And the irony is that they made Eric be the producer of my show, the guy that didn't want to work with me, or the guy that didn't think I was worth it.
And the guy that doesn't love controversy all that much is now your what do you call a wrangler? He's your wrangler. But he loves you. He loved you.
I don't know if you remember this. Yeah. I don't know if you remember this though, Bob. I used to hammer you hard about Eric because I knew how good he was, and he was so undervalued by the company. Even though he threw my tape in the trash, he is an amazing human being. One of my dear friends to this day, and I always let him remember you're really good. You make a lot of good moves, and except that time when you threw my tape in the trash might have been not one of your shining moments.
So, all right. So let's fast forward because we've only got an hour-ish or so. I want to tell the whole story. The 6-hour podcast.
I blame Spike every time we get together.
Spike's interrupting us constantly.
Yeah,
Spike, why don't you take a sidebar here? Because obviously, two of us we both see the same story entirely differently.
Well, BJ came into a situation in Seattle with The Buzz, Radio for Guys. And it was like you were given carte blanche to be the most aggressive and politically incorrect version of yourself. And no one else had that kind of runway. And you literally built
Tom Likas.
Well, yeah, Tom Likas was on the same station.
Yeah.
Right? Same station, though. So you had, that was, if Likas was okay to say what he said, the world was your oyster and you hucked a loogie in it and served it to people every day. I've never heard anybody do the kind of stuff you guys were doing at the Buzz. And I'm just like, holy crap. That kind of unbridled, unguardrailed radio. I mean, you found a
Give
way
me
to
some
make
examples. Give me some examples.
of BJ's show.
It's hard to remember.
I can't remember what I did today, but
I believe some of it involved same-sex couples in the studio with you.
Well, I remember that you, Bob, were very, very careful what you would let us do. And BJ would have let us do anything. So I was a little jealous.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, like some of the Twisted Tunes we wanted to make, and you're like, no, I'm like, Screamer. My girlfriend is a screamer. You're like, no. No, we're not. No, we're not doing that. You know,
Bob, Spike? Do you remember when Bob let me sit in and try to contribute to a Twisted Tune, and I did try to put stuff like that in there, and Bob immediately asked me to leave the studio.
She lives her life with a candle in her rim. I'm like, what? Okay,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, Bob, what's wrong with you? You don't know how to do this business. It's not like you've actually had records put out by a professional.
It's funny.
company.
Joe and I, even to this day, have more. He's even more family friendly because he's teaching teenagers. But Joe, we were always, you know, we don't want it to go too far. We want to. In fact, the word I would say is, well, let's not be as obscene, but let's be clever, clever obscene.
Bob, you wrote everything like your mom was going to pass judgment on it.
Yeah, well.
You everything was like, which was great because it gave us it kept us from going too far and blowing it. It really did.
Speaking of going too far and blowing it, so BJ is on the air, and I don't want to get too graphic with this, but Tom Likas is, because he's syndicated and because he's number one 2554. He's doing the most risque radio that you could possibly do, and remember his caller abortions. Remember, he would tell guys that if you don't like what that woman does, you should smack her across the ass. No one could say that today, and shouldn't have, in my view, said it then. But his show was captivating. You had to listen. He had to whip him. Was it Whip 'em Out Wednesdays? What did he call it?
Last Friday, I think.
Last Friday. Opie and Anthony did Whip 'em Out Wednesday.
Okay, so it's the same. Yeah. It's a syndicated bit. They just picked a different day.
Right.
But he would encourage women to expose themselves to truck drivers, and you know, this kind of stuff always sort of works for men at a certain age who are, you know, lonely and haven't yet developed skills to meet real women yet. But BJ, you were in some ways more clever. You were exploring sexuality. I remember this story. You, if we can tell it, you had, I believe, never had another woman but your wife. Is that right?
Oh boy, I will not tell my kids. I will not tell my kids about this podcast.
They don't. Come on, they know the story, don't they?
No, they actually. I don't believe they do because they were really young at the time. But I mean, look, it is out there. But you're right.
Yeah. All right, just a quick note to our technical guy, Dave. So that's part of the tease for the show, so that BJ's kids can learn the story.
Well, yeah.
By the way, that's our webmaster Dave, who and
Hi,
that's
Dave.
That's his grow operation behind him. He's a big medicinal guy. Okay, Dave. Okay,
you need it.
So I'll let you take the lead because I don't know how far you want to go with it.
Well, yeah. Boy, oh boy, this is basically. Whew, yeah, this is.
So by the way, this speaks of getting older.
Would you ever tell your kids about your sex life? You kind of don't ever do that. But my wife and I. Well, we had we were like, hey, let's just see everything in life. Let's experience it all, kind of people. And there was a point of our life where my wife's like, and both of us were like, hey, you know what I mean? We've been married for a while, and my wife's like, you've never been with anybody. It might be kind of fun for you to see what that's like. And so there was this coupon for like, go check out a professional woman, you know, in a legal situation. And so. That's so that's the core of the story.
By the way, can I interrupt for just a second, comedically?
Yeah, I'm trying to be as PC as I
possibly
can.
To watch the guy who used to rip the house down on his steroidic rage sit here and go, well, there's a
I mean, I have a daughter, and it's just like she's old enough to give me such grief over this. You know, you don't think of it. You don't think of that all those years ago when it's a little 7-year-old. And you go, she doesn't know what's going on. And now she's 32, and I'm like, oh my God, she's gonna be like, what? What, Father? What transcribed in your life?
Can I help you end this story in my diplomacy?
I would like to. I think you're going to have to help me explain the story to my daughter. I'm going to have you take over.
I do have a burning question, though, from what I'm gathered, because I haven't heard the
burning,
story.
Joe. I use protection. There was no burning, Joe.
Well, if my wife isn't going to do this, I know, and I don't. If so, though. I mean, did she give you a budget? I mean, you want?
Yes, she did. It was, I can tell you, Joe. Yes, and the coupon was not for the top shelf model. I'll just tell you that.
Because it's a
what am I going to do with $25?
I mean, she wants a pretty good one because you're going to bring, you're coming back home after that.
I'm not going to go
too far down into the gutter. Yes.
Yeah, for $25, I don't even get to go to the best part of Aurora. I just don't even get that. I mean, it's.
Was it Aurora or was it the Stranger?
I have to say it was actually probably Vegas because it's illegal to do those things except in certain parts of Las Vegas. And that's what my counsel has advised me to say.
And I'm here, and it's completely a waste of time for me to think about that because,
Bob, I would like to say this, even though it's not, about that, which is a lot of great stuff.
Let me put a finish on that because
finish
and I'm not going to call.
I don't know if you want to put a.
I'm not going to call this a happy ending, but it truly is a happy ending. Because I remember listening at this point, you were a favorite show of mine and a friend, and I felt that I had helped you in your career, and so it meant a lot to me. And you were still edgy in ways I could never be. And I remember the end of this bit was you talking about how it wasn't worth it. It wasn't any big deal. There was no excitement to it. No, but you basically came out for marriage at the end of it. You said that there was nothing about it that you would want to repeat, and it was kind of cold and impersonal, like most transactions, right? That are not emotional. And
you taught me that, Bob. I'm not about
not in that way.
Not about probably. You taught me about that kind of radio. I mean, like we knew what we were supposed to be doing. You had Tom Likas. It was supposed to be just radio for guys, blah blah blah. And it took us a while to. We were called Likas clones for the longest time. It took us a while for us to find our footing, but I always wanted to have basically a moral to the story, whatever it was, and. The reason we became popular, it was because the company that, your company and my company at the time, we were a crappy station they didn't care about, and they never gave us anybody good. And they gave me people, one of them who hated me. I had no idea how much this person hated me. And on my first day of working, this was a person that would put no calls through. He would write on my screen how boring I was. And the other guy would just laugh about it. And it was so frustrating. It was like, I never felt so alone, so frustrated because I had two people in the studio that did not give a damn. And they were the worst employees the company had to offer. The company did not care. They just wanted to fill the spot because they just didn't care about the station. I remember going home to my wife and complaining. And I would go through the whole thing, honey, this whole day was horrible. He wouldn't put through phone calls. And he kept telling me how boring I was and on the screen. And she started laughing. And so you ever have that moment where you're talking to your spouse and it's really important to you and that they just laugh at
and
you
they ridicule you. Raise a show of hands, anybody who's had that moment.
Yeah. Oh. So
Joe is delicate with the hands. Yes. It's part of the deal.
So I'm seeing red and I go, I cannot believe you're being this way. And she said, honey, I'm really not laughing at you. She said, it's just so ridiculous. It's like a sitcom how they've done this. And then a light bulb went off in my head. And I thought, and it was just like, I love the way my mind works. I thought, wait a minute. If she thinks this is funny, I wonder if anybody else would think this is funny. So the next day I go back to those two guys who hate my guts and I bring them in the room and they're ready because they think, okay, he's going to be mad. And I said, you know what you guys did yesterday? And they're like, yeah, so I go, you do the same exact thing today, except but you're going to be on the air. Instead of typing things to me, you break in and tell me how bad I am. And you keep laughing, but you put your mic on. And the rest became history as we created this show, which, yeah, we had all the stuff that we did. But the fun part of our show was nobody really did anything I wanted to do. I was a talk show host trying to do a talk show with people who were idiots.
Right.
And
they weren't collaborating. They weren't
thing.
collaborating with you in any way. They weren't part of the show until you brought them in and gave them the freedom to be what you were at Morning Show Boot Camp.
And that is what I learned from you, to always look for the opportunity to create something like that. You know, your mind is that way. You look at everybody you encounter and think, how can I put this person on the show in the best way for it to be entertaining? I've seen you do that so many times. And I thought, I think Bob would do. I remember going, I think Bob would do this. I think this is how he would approach this. Wow. And we had a blast. Then we all of a sudden no longer got the Lycus comparisons anymore because we were very different. And then my truth telling about my relationship with my wife, which is something Lycus could never do, it all of a sudden became different, where I would basically, I'm not a happy wife, happy life guy. I would call my wife an idiot on the air, and that was so vicarious for all the guys. You remember Dan Lewis, the ABC News local host? I didn't even know he knew about me. He came on the show one day and he brings me over. He says, I listen to you every day. How do you get away with saying about your wife what you say? He said, believe me, I love every minute of it, but I would be so done in my house. And I knew then, I was like, wow, we are onto something by just this honesty and truthfulness about this.
What did you call them? Your listeners, you called them H-holes, right?
Honest holes, which was kind of like the old Dennis Leary song, I'm an a-hole.
Yeah.
And you remember Dave? Dave, who's now the pilot? God, I thought I met him through him. Dave, I can't think of his last name. But anyway, this guy Dave wrote an H-hole song for me. And it was I'm an honest hole. People hate what I say because I'm speaking the truth. And at the time, I felt it was perfect. In a land of politically correct culture in Seattle, where a lot of men felt that if they said the wrong thing, the women in their lives would be angry at them. So they never did. But I was that guy that said, I don't care about your wife. I'm not married to her. I'll tell her she's an idiot. You know, I was that kind of guy. And the H-hole thing caught on. And and really, none of this happens if I don't meet you guys, know you guys, and learn from you guys. I learned so much from Spike because Spike taught me how to be a little bit more fun with me, because I tended to get a little angry and I'd watch Spike perform. And Spike,
ever since that steroid incident.
Yeah. But I mean, Spike always, you know, whatever Spike was doing, you just love the guy. And I thought, I need more of that lovability, because I don't think people love me as much as they love Spike. And
it was a two-way street, by the way, because at various times, there were times when Spike and I, as brothers on the air, he had this extremely strong ego, and we're both alphas. Okay. Joe was the beta for all of us. Joe was, anytime we needed to not be angry and come back to something with heart, we would just pause and Joe would go, this is my time to say something really heartwarming. And Joe also knew what you're talking about, to make fun of himself. Joe would, and so you think you might have learned it from us, but in a way, I learned the drama part of it from you. It's like, oh yeah, we don't have enough drama. And prior to you, I wouldn't necessarily try to piss off Joe, or I wouldn't take, or not piss off Joe. It's Spike I tried to piss off. I wouldn't try to, I wouldn't, but Joe we made fun with, but I would worry about, you know, if it hurt his feelings. And then when he's telegraphed that, no, I'm going to go along with the gag, but then he would cleverly get us back with his, you know, real slow, drawn out humor that would show, and he would act like he didn't know much. And then he would say something that would let you know that, oh, he was not only in on it, he was 8 steps ahead of us, partially because we never let him talk. Joe?
Brilliant. Brilliant,
right.
Joe. I always love that about you.
My dad said a few times, he goes, you know, those guys are pretty lucky because you're the one that keeps them from getting fired. Because they'd say a lot of really stupid stuff for about 5 minutes, and then I would try to mend the bridge a little bit, and then we would move on.
Yeah.
But I mean, I talk about wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be mentoring other broadcasters if it weren't for you guys and Bob, and especially. I mean, I learned so much from all of you, and I may not have got to say as much, but that gave me a lot more time to think about the something halfway funny to say when it
Yes.
was finally my turn.
Spike and I, we're talking so fast. Well, the words are coming out faster than our brains can keep up sometimes.
And so you think about what you're going to say before you say it?
A little bit, yeah.
That's why I was always the first one, and I still do this. People are like, "How are you getting here so early? Classes start at 8:00. I'm here at 5:36 in the morning because I'm not that smart. I need time to, think, to write stuff down, even to keep up with 15-year-olds. I need the extra time, and that's
By the way,
it was with you guys.
I have 3 favorite quotes from my sponsor, my 12-step sponsor. And I spoke to him last week, and Joe just reminded me of the most important one. This may be if you want to be an entertainer, if you want to get along with your wife, if you want to have good relationships. This is Henry, my sponsor. You know Henry, some of you a little bit. He says, anyone who is willing to accept their ignorance is teachable. And his sponsor, my grand sponsor, we actually call that, said, whatever I teach, that's what I need to learn. Whatever I think I need to teach someone else, it's because I recognize it in me. And then the third one is a Shakespeare quote, which I think applies to all of us. All the world's a stage. We are but players. And I think that even in our lives, now I'm retired, but I used to do a broadcast. Now I do a one cast when I'm talking with someone. And the goal is the same. The goal is to connect. The goal is to somehow be useful in their lives and to have them be useful to you, because I'm not doing this for nothing. And what's interesting about hearing this story is that each of us have our own perception. BJ and I have almost opposing perceptions. I'm like, this guy is really good. I need to hang around with him. He's like, this guy is really good. I need to hang around with him. It's like, no. So it's fun. So we have to tell the story of the strip club in New Orleans. This is probably 10 years into our being friends. And we've done all the boring things. We've basically skipped all the rowdy parties, the drinking and everything. And one night, BJ and I found ourselves in New Orleans. And I don't know which one of us said it, but, we should go to a strip club. And we looked at each other and, went like, we're having one in Rome or one in New Orleans. And so
in New Orleans, you have to.
So Dumb and Dumber, I felt like we were when it comes to strip clubs. And so the goofy duo, we head out, walking for the worst part of town. And you remember where we stopped first? Oh, this was like you interviewing the girls at Baskin Robbins.
I want to let you, my
all right, if it comes to you,
remember when you remind. Yeah,
we'll trade being each other's sidekick on this story. Okay.
Sadly, I have been to a few strip clubs, so I'm not sure which story.
Okay.
Embarrassingly so, I have been to a couple.
I would love to know which one of us was the last one to visit, but we'll save that for the end of the show. So, so we're walking towards this bad area because that's where the strip clubs are, although that's everywhere in New Orleans. But we see 2 policemen on the street, and BJ stops to interview the policeman. I mean, I would say talk to the policeman, but you remember this.
Yeah.
He stops to, and by the way, remember, all the world's a stage. We're always doing a show. BJ is always doing a show, even when we're not. And so he comes up to the policeman and he goes something like, so we're looking for a little hot fun in a strip club. You guys, something like, which ones do you guys bust the most? Something like that. Like, I can't believe he's saying that to play, and the policemen are like, they've heard and seen it all. And I don't remember exactly what they said, but I remember a few lines. One of them said, don't keep walking in that direction more than a block or 2. You want to go this way. And so we find ourselves in a house of strip repute. And now I realize this. It was a learning experience. Because I never really did this. You walk in there and you're a mark. You are a wallet. And to BJ, we're doing a bit for the radio, even though there is no radio. And so, a girl comes up and it's like these 2 nerdy guys. and she starts engaging us in talk. And BJ, I remember you start you don't remember the story the way I do, but you start negotiating with her. So, what's on the menu? I'm new to this game. It's and sort of acting like, can we be friends? Will we be really friends? Or and what's weird is, as long as you give them a little money every once in a while, Spike, you must have some color to add to this play-by-play.
They'll talk your ear off because it's a lot easier than getting anything else off.
That's true. That's
pretty
true.
much
Exactly.
And like, you want me to actually, you care what I think, as opposed to like,
yes.
Yeah.
There was some surprise there, and we kept talking, and I realized maybe after 45 minutes, oh, the only reason she's here is for the money. And you know what? The only reason we're here is for the fun interaction and learn a little something about a profession. Because if you're a radio person, you're curious about every profession. And we're here to, see what it's like. And at some point, you and I just looked at each other and went, well, that was fun. All right. Thank you. Good night. And we, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No happy ending.
No,
Well,
not even a happy beginning. Yeah.
Bob, they're entertainers just like us. So I really felt that common ground. I thought, really, we're both getting paid to entertain people. And I'm not sure whose profession is actually cleaner, if you will. You know what I mean? I'm not sure on the totem pole who's actually higher or lower on the quality entertainment. But I always felt, I just felt.
Are you going to have a talk with your daughter about both these topics before this podcast is released?
The strip show is not a problem, because my daughter, she's she loves doing that herself. My daughter is just like me and has
Sarah knows. Kid. Sarah knows the whole game, right? She's
not the entire game, because look, there are no kids that want to hear anything about the sex lives of
parents. Okay, so pull my finger moment. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, they never want to hear that. No matter how cool you think you are, they're like, no, that is an ugly thing to picture, you old prune. You please be quiet.
Let's talk about the transition for you getting the job at KISW and the in between. Howard Stern was there we go off the air and quit because we're going over to CBS. Were you on the air at that time? Were you on the bus?
Yeah, when you left, I was
That's
still
a long
doing
story.
middays.
Yeah,
it was I love that story. I predicted that was going to happen just based upon a certain
Tell a short version of it. Tell a short version of it.
Well, I'm going to just say this. The company I work for and the management team we have now, fantastic. I want to say that just so that when I talk about the miserable group of managers we had before, that they won't think it's the people that I'm talking about now. Great. I mean, for the last really 15 years, it's been an amazing situation, the people I've gotten to work with. First 5 years with the company, they are the worst of the worst work there. They really were. They had no business running a temperature, let alone a radio station. And so I'm there. They have employees that are out of control. I get in a situation where basically, unbeknownst to management, I find myself on the basically getting fired, and management didn't even know that was going down. And then when they found out, there wasn't anything they could do about it. We had to go to arbitration, and in arbitration, they called people to testify. And I'm not sure if they were helping me. And Bob, I have to tell you, because I got along with the two managers that didn't know this was happening.
They knew you were good. They liked you.
They liked me, and those two were great people.
Good. The show was good.
Yeah,
you did some stuff that Lycus could have gotten away with in a heartbeat, which is how you won.
That's how I won the case.
Yeah,
but they thought you were going to be the star witness against me. I know you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was called by the company to represent a talk show host who has moral standards and would never do something like what BJ did. And I didn't know this, but when you have a union arbitration, he's sitting there with the union guy who's representing the talent. And the station really, you can't fire someone who's union without good cause, and you have to demonstrate it. He was off the air, and I was called into this session by the company. See, we're just calling it the company. I like that. We're so polite. And it's so good to see you polite at this stage in your life too. It's really fun. So we get called we get called in by the company and they asked me, would you testify as to where the line is and how you do a good morning show and how you don't cross the line and how you don't get into trouble? You're the one who never gets into trouble. And I'm like, well, it's kind of good. So I got Joe, who's a moral compass, and I got Spike to take the heat, and I'm the host. So I go into this thing, and BJ's sitting there, and it's just you and the union representative, and I'm on the side with the company, a company representative and a lawyer. I think they always try to who wants to win the lawsuit outnumbers you with the number of seats. So it's just
they had a good team. They had lots of it was it was David and Goliath, baby.
Yes, it was David and Goliath. And I went, well, why am I on Goliath's side? I really love David. And so it comes to a point where they ask me where if my program, this was the question, because you were supposed to have some standards, and they were saying you had violated them. And to me, the standard was Tom Likas. If that's what's number one on the station, that's what you got to be like. Anyway, they said something to me about, so where do you get when you have a line that you do not cross? Who draws the line for you? How does your program director communicate it? And I said, the program director doesn't even talk to me about that stuff. As long as our show is getting ratings, the program director, just smiles and says, great job.
And not the answer we wanted, sir.
No. And they're like, well, but you are good. You haven't gotten into trouble. Where does that line come from to you? And I seriously looked right at the questioner and I said, that comes from my mother. And I think at that moment they were like, I wonder if those two guys are friends. And in the end, I said, look, radio guys need ratings, and ratings, I said, Mancow, remember Mancow Mueller from Chicago, Mancow stopped traffic on the Golden Gate Bridge to give someone a haircut, which prevented Hillary Clinton from getting to a campaign stop or something like that. And they said, well, what happened to him for that? I said, he got a bigger job in a bigger city. And so that's kind of how it works, but it's about getting your ratings. And at this point, they actually stopped asking me questions. And that's when BJ played a tape of Tom Likas. Oh, call her abortions. Smack that biatch across the ass. I mean, the stuff that they played was, and they went, oh, we have no case. And I love this about radio because you were back on the air. Because
if we don't give our agent Paul Anderson any love here, he'll cancel us.
That's fine. I mean, we both have the same agent. Yeah.
He was the one that recommended that I called him back and asked for my job back.
So after
it was him that helped that happen.
After I had done what I so admired BJ's ability to do, which is to speak truth to power, BJ comes up to me and said, have you got another job and you're about to quit?
I do it. I know you love me, but you love your job better.
You would never be this rude to the
You
company.
would not be this way.
And
I know you love me.
I thought it was a very polite diplomatic FU, but I said, yeah, we're going. And after that hearing, I don't know if you guys know this. After that hearing, I went across the street to another building in the center of town where we met Lisa Decker and signed the contracts with KZOK. And so an hour later, I'm wearing a KZOK T-shirt. I was like, that was really perceptive of BJ. And and
I know my buddy.
And this is why he gives me a lot of credit, because I probably deserve it. But he stayed on the air, and then we were direct competitors. It was after Stern that you went to KISW and they blew up the buzz, and we suddenly realized we're going to be direct competitors across the street. And I was like, I'm fine with that. Let's be number one and number two, which we were. Yeah.
Do you remember what you said, by the way?
No.
You don't. I don't know if you remember this. Spike, Joe, this was amazing. What kind of a man, and you guys already know this about Bob, but when he said you have to come to Rochester, and then when it was happening, when they said we're going to bring you, you're going to do this midday show, Bob said, I mean, he's like, I know what's going to happen. Going to bring you to Rochester. You're eventually going to get a morning show and beat me in the ratings, but I still think it's the right thing for me to do. And I'm like, at the time, I couldn't even get a job in Rochester. I couldn't get anything. And I'm like, you're high. I probably won't keep this job, which, by the way, for 3 months, I actually didn't keep the job. But then when it happened and we got mornings and Bob, we go up against the ratings. I'm like, oh, my God, I feel horrible. You're the guy that brought me here. I don't want to beat you in the ratings. That just doesn't seem right. But it was like your prophecy was coming true. You were like this oracle. And you were so
all the world's
gracious.
a stage and we are the players, but
so
each one of us
gracious.
is the director of the movie that we're in. I do remember that, and I remember actually telling you at one point you were considering quitting because you were having trouble with some management or something. And I was talking you off the ledge. I said, BJ, don't I don't think I said don't be an idiot because I don't talk the way you do, but I said something like that. And I said, look, you're younger than me. You're going to take over. You're going to be on the air after I'm gone. Hang on to your brand, hang on to the job. And at that point, I didn't, have any plans to retire or to do anything like that. But I just knew that to me, your show, we're all part of a pie. And in the ratings, there's 100 share. Okay. And to win, usually the winning 1 or 2 stations have a 5 or a 6 share. And that means that, even when Howard Stern was doing his best there, he had a 6 share, and he did edge us out a little bit at one point. At that point, I still people would say, "Oh, you feel threatened by Howard Stern," and I would say, even if he's number 1 with a 6 share, that means that 94% of the people would rather listen to something else. And if we can't make a living from the other 94%, then we don't deserve to. And so I never looked at it as direct competitors. I looked at it as there's 100 share. There's plenty of pie for Joe. Joe, I haven't talked to you in a while, and I know you like pie.
Oh, my ears did perk up when you said that.
I'm with you, Joe.
I know.
Oh, man, there's nothing like a good pie.
Yeah.
I used to.
Well,
by the way, that's how you
use
use Joe to diffuse a tense moment, and you were so kind to do that for us, Joe.
Well,
how funny you were.
Thank you very much. I will say I want to give my quick version of this story because legend has it, because I may be wrong. Now I got all the players in one room here, but the way I remember this was BJ did something pretty outrageous, but you're looking at contemporary community standards. That's where you draw the line, is what is acceptable. So BJ gave an excellent defense for himself, saying, look, the contemporary standard of this station is this. Listen to this. He plays Tom Likas, and he's like, I'm not anywhere close to that. So you're paying me to try to be outrageous. Now you're firing me for being outrageous.
You're right. That's a better summary of it.
Absolutely. So he wins the case, and then they're on the hook to pay him. And it's not about, as I understand, keeping the job. It's about getting the money that you're owed out of the contract.
Right.
But this company being so cheap
so
that they
cheap.
had me and Spike
do it, James
overnight.
Brown. So cheap.
Yeah,
so cheap.
They had Spike and I doing overnight shifts at KISW, even though they wanted us to do a morning show. And then, but go stay up all night on Saturday night and live and play records from midnight to 6. That's the level of cheap we're talking here. And since they had to pay BJ, it's like, well, we're going to pay him. We better just make him work instead of just giving him the money. So they give him his microphone back, and he goes on and he becomes a highly rated show, and the rest is history. Is that kind of the way?
And let me add this about competitors. There's all kind of assholes getting to do radio. When you know somebody is a genuine good guy, it's not competition. You want him to be as successful as humanly possible, because the kind of guy he is, and how he treats his staff and how he treats his audience. I love watching BJ ascend, because I knew who he was. I mean, people come to town and they're total D-bags, and sometimes they're successful. Most times they're not, because the truth will bear out who you really are. On the authenticity of who you are, you can't make it up or mask it.
Spike, is there a sports analogy here? So, for example, if you're a great NBA player,
Let's go baseball. If you shoot steroids in your ass, you can hit the ball over the yard, but nobody likes you anymore. I'd rather see the guy that gets there on his own merits and his own skills and comes in second or third. I'll take that guy all the live long day.
But players move from team to team and they become friends, whether they're direct competitors or not, is sort of what I was thinking.
And I'll give you a quick sports analogy because it reminded me so much to hear you and BJ talk. Bob, you are the veteran star running back. You're an all-pro, 10-year all-pro. Then you've got a younger guy coming in. You can do one of two things. You can try to make his life miserable and hang on to your job, or you can go, hey, this is a great guy, and it's really my duty as a veteran to mentor him and to, kind of take him under my wing. And I think as a veteran, you saw talent, you saw potential, you saw that he's a good dude. So you kind of helped him out. And that's the way the NFL works. There's only one starting running back job on every NFL team. And every time you draft somebody or bring a younger guy in, he's going to want that job. And, may the better player win or may whoever's more fit. But I think that's a great thing about you, Bob, is you've never put somebody else down to try to keep yourself up. You're always looking to give somebody a hand up, and you're always looking for somebody to help you. Please find some way
to backhanded insult me, because we're
getting the bootleg. Well, I'm going to say it's also for your own. It's for your personal growth as well, and then you're very good at recognizing talent and everything. But I think it is very selfless what you do. As far as looking at competitors, nobody else looks at competitors and goes out and has lunch. And you were the guy who would get every radio person in town together to have a dinner together. That's not very often.
Even people who feuded, like Dory and BJ feuded, because Dory may have not been on BJ's side when that thing happened. Eventually, we had a lunch with BJ and Dory, and aren't you glad now that we did that?
You really helped out a lot with that. I mean, it wouldn't have happened because of you. And I'm happy it did, because obviously because of Dory's passing, I'm happy that we had resolution to what I believe really the poor guy did not deserve what happened because of the way I was on the air. And I felt so bad because sometimes we do stuff on the air and next thing you know, listeners do things that you didn't ask them to do, but they just do. That sort of Baba Booey mentality. And I really felt like, oh gosh, didn't even occur to me that something like that would happen where, they would go over the line, and that was really bad for Dory and his family. And so,
so you had the opportunity. Some of your listeners were, I'm going to do it the diplomatic way, critical of his show in some very divisive ways.
And it got personal,
and by the way, that happens to every talk show host. By the way, you guys don't know, but we all get people who heckle us because they hear us play fighting and they think, oh yeah, I want to be mean like they are. They don't know what they're doing, and they can actually hurt you. That has happened to me. It's probably happened to every one of us at some point. So all right, let's do.
And you were friends with both of us. Which, people would find that even hard to believe because
I'm Switzerland.
He and I were opposite. You were.
I'm Switzerland.
I gave me a great opportunity.
I believed that, and I still do. I believe that, and this comes from my mother.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, and I don't say Jesus a lot. Like Jack says, Jesus our Lord and Savior. Doesn't he say that every time he says?
Oh yeah.
But I do believe in a higher power, and I do believe that we're all connected and we're all brothers and sisters, even, if we're in times in our lives or points in our existence where we're mortal enemies. I mean, I believe even the Russian people are good people. The Ukrainian people are good people. There's a few people I don't believe are good people, and I hope they don't become the Republican nominee. But still, that's not a big deal. But I believe conservatives are good people. Most of my really good friends who are conservative are salt of the earth.
Some of my best friends are conservative.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I'm about liberal. Some of these woke mob people, I agree with that too. So my problem is I could never be political because I cannot take a side. Because even in the middle of a sentence, I change my mind because I feel like everybody's point of view deserves to be heard, and then you compromise. And that there's no place for me thinking that way, other than to be a host and sort of wrangle the fight of other people. Like tomorrow, I'll be on the Spike Show with Jack, and sometimes when every Friday at 2:00, can I plug it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you guys are on noon to 3, and Spike's awesome, and Jack's this up and coming talk show host. He's 35 years old and brilliant at 35. None of us knew at 35 as much as he knows about the world, and yet I come on, and every time I come on, I'm nervous because I'm afraid I'm going to be boring as heck if I simply say, I could literally quote John Lennon. Well, all you need is love. Oops. It's really difficult. So, all right, let's tell one more story, and then we're going to bring on a closing guest, because this kind of goodwill that we're discussing is generational. We pass it down to our kids. BJ's got Sarah on his show.
Oh, so you're not bringing my kids on after the sex story, are you? For crying out loud.
No, you're on your
God,
own.
I have a lot to explain.
No, but I'm bringing one of my kids on. Because BJ.
I hope it's not that Andrew kid. Jeez,
Yeah.
I mean that.
All right,
that
say
kid.
what you really think about him before he comes on.
Yeah, I want to say this though.
No bootlicking allowed. No bootlicking allowed.
Well, no, that's the problem. Yeah. This has been a bootlicking show, but then I'm sorry, that's just where it's at, because we've been telling stories about me, but you guys. This is exciting to do a show. I've always wanted to do a show with you guys. I know it's Bob, Spike, and Joe, but
we've never done this. No,
I would love to do this. So if I am going to make a plea, let me come back when you do a regular show talking about stuff.
Oh, just be
I would love to
yeah.
just be there with you guys. Everyone's got an opinion, and I'll be my idiot self. And I always wanted to be in those conversations with you three, and was very envious of that all those years. I was your friend, and I mean, I still am your friend. As of this airing, but I will.
There's still time.
Yeah, I really, if you would have me back so we can do a cool, fun show, as opposed to.
You know what? You deserve that, because I've been on your show numerous times, and it's like
I've never worked with Spike and Joe on air, and I have such great respect for them.
Well, they're so far away from you. There's no way they could make it all the way across town and be a guest on your show.
I can't anymore.
They know I don't leave Mercer Island, so I would.
There's also politics, because you're our direct competitors now, and it's not as friendly as it used to be. I mean, it is, but I mean, it's not the same.
It should be.
Yeah, I think so too.
Bob, I'll take this time to say this, is that the fact that that Spike works for another company, our radio business needs to understand it's no longer about companies. Our competition is everything else. And
yes, that's right. The internet.
I don't care who wins. They should let Spike and me be a super team somewhere, whether we're in the same company or not, because it elevates our industry. Just like you put restaurants around, you get more people coming to restaurant. But our business never thinks that way. Hopefully it starts changing. So I'm all for that. I don't care.
All right. Along the course of life, BJ began having my son Andrew on the show. He waited a few years, because in the beginning, Andrew was getting started. But I knew that Andrew was starting to do well when BJ SHEA started having him on his program. Spike's phone just flipped out, and he's going to come right back. So I think Andrew wants to say, maybe he wants to say thank you. Maybe he wants to suggest some hair products for you, some Rogaine or something. I'm not sure what he's up to. Hi, Andrew. And by the way, Andrew's here with me in Las Vegas, but every time we try to do it in the same room, we get all this feedback. So he's sitting. Where are you? Oh, you're in the guest bedroom.
Yep, I'm in my my rehab wing of the estate, and not for drugs, but for funny. There's no jokes allowed on this show, as he's
been listening. So we have not been funny. That's his way. By the way, Andrew has no problem putting me down.
Well, it was such a love fest, and you were like, "When's the backhanded compliment coming?" And so I know my role.
Okay, rip at us.
Oh no, I got nothing but lovely things to say.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. You really can't.
Yeah.
The problem is I don't know BJ well enough to insult him. I mean, who listens to his show anyway? So,
not many.
No, other than the fake job he offered me, and whatever. I don't know what you want me to say.
Tell us. Well, you just said the fake job he offered me.
Oh, sure.
Which sounds like a story, and you condensed it down to 3 seconds. So,
well, in my business, economy of words is
that's
key,
right.
But,
What did you have like some job you needed to audition people for, and you just put his name down so that you could hire the illegal alien you wanted to hire anyway? How did that work?
I tell you, I am old. Did we offer you a job on the
No,
show?
it was no,
You don't remember this?
no. We sat and had pizza and we talked about it maybe, and then
Nothing
oh
nothing
yes,
ever came
oh
of it, but
yeah. Well, I know exactly what happened. Your father, by the way, since we're here, we're putting the dirt out. Andrew, your dad knows about this, but never got back to me.
Oh,
You need to scroll up in your text, old man, because
Dude, can I tell you? Can I interrupt you? My flight got changed this morning, coming in to visit, and I in the text message thread I said, "Oh, I landed at 11:30," and he was at the airport at 9 o'clock, going, "Where are you? What's going on? When are you landing?" And I said, "11:30."
I wasn't in that thread. Your mother
Sure.
got that message, and at 8:30, she's like, "You have to leave now. You have to pick him up at 9
It was
o'clock."
the family text message thread, but you know,
I don't read the
get- it's
family thread.
Technology
No.
confusing.
I look at
oh,
pictures
so
of the
many
granddaughters.
buttons.
I don't listen to what you guys are talking. So anyway, yeah.
But yeah, there's a chance that maybe some details got passed along, because he also keeps saying that someone at Como or someone at someone else is
Cairo.
gonna and
No.
you know,
All right,
to
let me
it's
let me
all
bust
fake
you on
until
this.
somebody calls
The
me up.
people at Cairo are always open to bringing up young millennials and teaching them. I mean, Jack has been doing this; he's good at it. But they mentioned, would Andrew be interested in being teamed up with, maybe another comedian, and they would probably, farm club thing. They would put you on a weekend show and let you bomb around and make a few mistakes and see if you liked it. But when I mentioned this to Andrew, and here's what I know about Andrew. He loves his career. He is dedicated to being a comedian. He's done what that guy in that movie did, who drove all around. What was his name? The
Oh,
comedian.
Berbiglia, yeah,
He's
sure.
like Berbiglia in that in the beginning, he literally put 200,000 miles on a new car in like 6 months. That's called exaggeration, by the way. Look it up in comedy. Anyway, he lived in the back seat with a sleeping bag. And so he loves his profession so much that I kind of felt like when I was saying this to him, he was thinking like, so you want me to become a blacksmith and put shoes on horses? He was looking at it like,
Yeah,
it's like, so you want me to work at the old folks home? And,
Well, my dad wants me to have both of the lowest paying entertainment jobs at the same time, and
Sure.
see how that
Weekends
works out.
is the lowest paid entertainment job. But I thought it, and so, and by the way, I still think there's hope for this argument because comedians sometimes, didn't you do comedy too, BJ, at some point? Oops. I lost your sound. Hang on. There's Spike.
Hey,
All right. There's Joe. BJ, your mic might have muted. Let's see. Oh, it's muted. No, it's not muted. Wow. That's a new one.
I
This is a
saw the
great
little
bit.
mute
Yeah,
thing.
it's a great bit. Yeah. You might want to go into properties and sound and see if
Andrew's on the show. My connection, job.
Well, that's all the time
what
we
job
have.
offer? I lost my signal.
Yeah. No, we can't hear
Nothing.
you.
log out and
there-
log back in. Tell them to log out and log back in.
Log out, log back in, Spike says, because that happens.
That's what I do.
It's a goofy thing. And by the way, our guy, Dave, will edit this because it's the only edit in the whole
Poor
thing.
Dave.
And this occurs at 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 46 seconds. Hey, Dave, I was going to ask you something else. After the show, Dave's always asking me to write a description. And it's kind of funny to me, as if I remember a single word that we said.
Right.
Dave, do you take notes during this for your internet tags? I don't hear you either.
I have before, but I've been just so engrossed in watching that I haven't been writing anything down.
So the show is not as boring as we think it is?
No, not at all. It's great.
Okay, good to know. Because
Very
to
good.
us, this is all like, we're not busting each other's balls enough. We're being too nice. All right, let's bring BJ back. BJ, is your
How'd I
mic
do?
back?
Can you hear me?
Yep, it's
Yes.
all good. Okay. We might even not need to edit that. Just leave it as the shit happens part of the show.
I would,
so,
I have a really good story about Andrew not getting the job with us.
Okay.
And there is a good story. You never did get back to me. If you scroll, I tried
didn't
to be
get
as
back to you.
delicate as I could.
Me not
about
getting
your-
back to someone is not news.
It's not. I thought it would be when I said this is about your son's career, but I thought, oh yeah, he's not going to care about that.
My
But,
mind is
probably
like a
should have
steel sieve. And by the way,
Yeah.
I apologize every hour to somebody because
Here's what happened to find Andrew, who I'm a big fan of Andrew's work, always have been, and every time we get together, it's always fun. I just love his creative mind and what he does. So like, yeah, come on the show, and if we have you on the show, this could morph into something. We have Andrew on the show. Andrew's killing. Andrew's doing a great job, but Andrew apparently never had that great father-son conversation. Don't take a dump on one of the biggest advertisers our station may have.
oh,
Andrew immediately compares a fine company's beer to urine, and everybody's look on the face while he's going, don't drink that pee, everybody.
By
And
the
I'm
way,
like, first of all, that's the biggest hack joke you could ever do, which I didn't even expect from Andrew because he's so really good. But then he goes, I'll pull this one out of the closet. That beer is like pee, everybody. And I'm like, oh my God, they're the biggest advertiser we have, and we only have like one. Oh my God. And the look on Steve's face was like, that kid is never coming back. And I wrote to you and I said, Bob, God bless America. You are a broadcaster. You never told your kid. Rule 1, whenever you do a radio show,
no, I didn't.
Don't take a pee literally on any advertisers. And Andrew's like, take a pee. I'm going to say it is pee. And that is why Andrew is dead to America.
Says the guy who I met who had no filter. And ironically, you should know that I also I did the same thing. You've heard of a little restaurant that has golden arches?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. When we first arrived at KISW, somehow we did a thing about calling their McMuffin with egg sandwich. Do you remember this one, Spike?
No. What did you call it? What did I call it, more importantly?
Well, let me put it this way. Without saying the word, you know what Roe v. Wade is about?
Yeah. Oh, my God, I do remember that.
You do remember this.
Oh,
yeah.
We didn't call them pee. We called them chicken. Let me say it differently. Chicken miscarriages.
Oh, wow.
Like here's the funny thing about this. Tom Likas would have just called them the A word. And anyway, we said that early on, and McDonald's canceled. So we're all on a journey, and it's some
like father, like son.
Exactly. At some point, Joe, you know what we're talking. You remember this one?
Oh
Joe?
yeah, I remember well. Going back to being the guy who kept you guys from getting fired, I had a lot of repairing to do on that one, and you wouldn't believe how much time I had to spend with Ronald McDonald to make that good. I was going to McDonald's for about a year with the clown and hanging out. And
are you going to say you're still making reparations?
Well, no, I'm actually, but I will say I have a soft spot when those Big Macs go for buy one, get one for $1. Did you know the Big Mac right now is supposedly better than it's ever been? I don't want to sidetrack, but
tell me why, Joe.
Well, it's got a mushier bun, or not a mushier. That's not a good way to say it. It's got a different bun, and they give you more sauce than ever. It's actually pretty good.
So the bun doesn't mush out the way it used to, and the bun is a little more solid. Would you say it has great mouthfeel?
I like it. The only thing I don't like about it is it gets me in a lot of trouble because my wife finds the wrappers.
She finds the wrappers?
Yeah. I'm supposed to not be eating them. But going back to this story, McDonald's was our biggest advertiser. Yeah. And the salesperson with the account was, I mean, they were going to lose their job. And it's like
you see how we softened it up after the chicken abortion story? See, this is what Joe is the heart and soul of all of this.
So we wound up doing lots of breakfast, and it was breakfast too. Ironically, that I would sit in the drive-through.
We ended up with that account back, so you're going to get that beer piss account back. I'm sure you already have it.
Yeah.
Maybe not. They don't.
Well, I think he hit the dump button in time. Hopefully, I just got a small lecture at the very end, and then that's when I in my business, it's try to say something offensive to, we're trying to get attention, but they already have attention. They want to keep it,
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, I never blamed you for that. When that happened, the first thing I thought of, I'm gonna strangle your father. That's like rule one.
Because it was my fault. Absolutely.
Yeah. How does he not? How does he not say anything about this at all? So
You also had a story about one of your first times a pissing off a sponsor. You texted me and said, "Remind me, and I'll tell you this story."
You talking to me?
Oh,
yeah, I think so. Let me see if I can look up what you said. Actually,
oh God, yeah. Like, please tell me when
hey,
I
don't feel bad. It happens to the best of it. Maybe you're just being sympathetic. But,
look at you.
Yeah.
Using
I
my
was
diplomacy
lying.
technique.
That's never happened because I'm professional, but I didn't want you to feel bad. I immediately thought, how can I make this loser kid feel like he didn't do something really bad?
That's
I'll
really
lie.
nice of you.
That's
Thank you.
I'll be like a good parent. I'll lie. No, you're not a moron.
No, it's not that I don't love you. It's just Santa Claus thinks that you're a bad kid.
Santa's the one who's got you on the list. Kid, there's not eating nice, and then there's basically jail time.
I hope this conversation has been interesting in a behind the scenes radio personalities in Seattle, not just for some of the behind the scenes stories and the bootlicking, but also for the what I believe is character development of each person involved in each show, or even Andrew as a comedian. We all help each other, and it turns out we all make the same mistakes. It also turns out that we all see the stories slightly differently. And I believe there's a certain kind of social anxiety and insecurity in every entertainer. And that when you have someone who's supportive of you, as we mentioned earlier, Joe, I think could bring this home with a teacher reference. When someone is your mentor and says, you can do it, I believe in you, you grow. And, when you piss off a major sponsor, it's sort of like the burned hand teaches best. It was like, I might not do that again. Let's put a pain deep in my soul of how it felt to do that, and then let's try not to again. And so it's interesting, fantastic, the evolution of what we do. And here we are now. Andrew is a touring comedian with tens of millions of social media views, aiming for 1 billion or 100 million, or I don't know at what number do you get really huge? Like you can sell 300 seaters out now. When do the guys who sell the 700 seaters out? What is
Sure.
Then there's Larry the Cable Guy who could sell out the Paramount in his day 5 nights in a row. I mean, that's your gig, right?
There's a new comedian that's really blowing up called Matt Rife, and if you give him a Google, he's just an incredibly handsome fella, and so
that's going to be tough for you.
Yeah.
Although from the back, you remind me of Nelson, those Nelson brothers.
Yeah, he's dude. He's blowing up all over the internet.
Okay, Matt Rife.
Matt Rife, and all over Facebook. A lot of women really, because the kid is
short.
He's ripped.
He's
and to his credit, and Andrew, you and I, out of all of us, have at least done stand-up comedy. Of course, you tons more than me. The guy does have good audience work to the point where I think, my God, are they plants? The idea that he's so able to interact with the audience and then slide back into his material, I think that he doesn't get enough credit for the fact that he does some things, and he kind of slides into political incorrectness for a white, really good-looking dude to say some of the things he says, and that the audience is okay with it, especially when you think of the fact that a lot of his audience is women. It makes me think he's found a way to be edgy in a world that doesn't exactly know how to be edgy.
Yeah.
And the kid is doing it all on his own. He's doing it the way Andrew's doing it. He's just, he made his own YouTube specials because nobody would give him a special. So he made his own. And he's got a lot of views. And he's blowing up the internet right now. And still my favorite comic, of course, is Andrew Rivers. I have to tell you that guy.
But this is the thing. It's a journey. Not a destination, although the destination usually involves some cash.
You know what? I can't wait to do more shows with you to just say the pearls of wisdom. What could I do without that classic? It's not the destination, but it's the personification.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bob's reading from his Chicken Soup from the Teenage Soul book right now.
Yeah. Well,
the teenage soul.
BJ, you've had therapy and counseling, and you also
A ton.
have matured tons by that. Should Andrew
Oh,
get some?
thanks, buddy. Yeah. I really, I would love to come back and just kibitz with everybody, because I love Joe's take. I love Spike's take on things. And sometimes would love to fight with him. If you've ever had lunch with Joe, the great thing about Joe is somehow he thinks I run the station, and basically will tell me all his great ideas. And I look at him, what do you think? I could do anything? But Joe's like, here's what you should do to change the world, buddy.
I have an idea actually to change the world that all you guys could help with, but I'll go ahead, Bob. Right. I'll throw it out there. Or I got an idea, and it just came to me while we're sitting here talking about how we should all do a show together and everything. You have 100,000 watt station, BJ. I know it's not yours, but you kind of have some say. Spike, you have 100,000 watt station. I have a 30 watt station. Andrew has a worldwide following on comedy, and Bob Rivers is a comedy and radio legend. I'm really kind of getting tired of people shooting each other. I'm really getting tired of this gun violence, at least in our area. And I would love to figure out a way to get some kind of media across, something going to, and I don't even know what the answer is, but I do know that it's become, it's a terrible epidemic right now. And I'm not making any jokes here, but every single day in Seattle, Washington, somebody is getting shot. And most days it's more than one. And if there's any way we could get our voices, our media companies, anybody to get on a campaign that transcends, companies that transcends anything, to get the word out that we have to end this gun violence. Any way we could do that, we could do that collectively, all unified, and get more personalities involved. I would be up for that kind of project.
The problem is Smith & Wesson is one of BJ's major sponsors, so we can't really do any of that.
So I got to say, shootings are good for our business in Cairo.
And by the way, Joe, even though he just made a joke, here's what I believe, and I love your passion. I believe that it isn't a fight to end gun violence, because that is a paradox. Fighting each other to end gun violence only practices fighting each other. And so calling someone bad politically for not helping you, the press releases are the same as they were decades ago, and the problem has only gotten worse. It's really about coming together. It's about all you need is love. It's
about getting naked to end gun violence, right? Is that what it is?
It could be. The point I'm making is
I will turn in all the guns if he keeps his shirt off.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I need all my money to keep his shirt off.
Let's say this: the way to bring about love is only from love. It's not from anger. And yet, when you have something you feel legitimately the right to be angry about, that's the first thing that comes to your mind, and it turns on our lizard brains. And to our lizard brains, violence, fighting, tribalism, all of that is actually not bad to the primitive side of us. And then we have the civilized side. Jon Stewart said this really well once. He said, the primitive anger part of us is what's normal and natural in our DNA. It's the civilization that's like a garden that we have to tend to do better, and weeds grow. It requires constant tending and loving, and so to me, what's missing in modern times, and I could blame social media, but then I would be fighting it. To me, what's missing in our times is something that we experienced during the early decades of the 60s, 70s, was this music and the arts came out for love. Crosby, Stills, and Nash came out for talk about ending gun violence, 4 Dead in Ohio. They did it through art and music and bringing people together with love.
And that's what I'm suggesting. I'm not suggesting a fight here. I'm not saying take anybody's guns away. I'm saying quit pointing them at each other and shooting people. I'm saying let me come to school without worrying about having to be in a lockdown, which I have been, and worrying about how am I going to protect kids. I mean, and maybe it's a concert, maybe it's a comedy show. And I don't know what it is, but I do know that this is something I'm passionate about. And any way we could
I think concert is that's a throwback to that get together for love to do something. I think that's an interesting idea. And anybody wants to send something about that to us, a show. Is it show at bobrivers.com? I don't know. Let's ask Dave what my email address. I don't even know my freaking email address. Dave?
That is correct.
Show at Bob Rivers. Thank you, Dave. Get back to tending your plants. Have you trimmed all those tops yet? Okay.
I think if we let Dave be in charge of this issue with his plant collection, nobody will be shooting anybody. Right. I really think that.
All right.
I am so envious of people like Spike and even you guys doing the show, because this is the kind of topic that we just don't do in our show. Joe, I'm going to tell you straight up. We're the fun rock station. We'll never do this topic on the show. It just isn't going to happen. It's not the filter the company wants.
Well, it wouldn't fit. It wouldn't fit what the show is. Yeah.
But I still have subtle ways of getting stuff done, because I think this is a much bigger issue. And unfortunately, this is going to suck to hear, everybody, but it's Andrew's fault. And I think once we get rid of him and those long-haired hippies that are coming back.
All right.
But no, there really is a serious answer to it. And that's a longer show, Bob. And, it's a good one. So bring me back, and Joe and I will have a fight. Spike will take his shirt off. Andrew will fall asleep going, I hate old people. Why do I have to listen to them?
I like the idea of
Dave will be hot.
Yeah.
Nothing hurts your ratings worse than listeners getting shot. They can't listen when they're dead. So I think everybody benefits from less.
I want to be at the meeting where they go, Joe, actually, we've done research. Turns out people getting shot. My God, we had a spike.
Yeah, it's out there. A concert idea, I think, would be wonderful. If anybody listening wants to contact us, show at bobrivers.com. And hotel motel time, because we've done it all. And BJ has some splaining to do to his daughter, and there's a lot that's going to come out of this.
Thanks for that.
So last two words, Andrew, then Spike. Andrew, go ahead.
Oh, sure. Well,
that's two words. Thank you very much, Andrew. That was
BJ,
fantastic.
If you when I cut my hair, I'll save some for you so you can make a wig out of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Locks for laughs, right, Andrew? You're not making wigs for bald comedians.
No, let's do that. That's a good thing for everything.
Yeah.
No, Joe, I wish we could come up with a way to have people respect each other. I think the only real answer is to just start killing squirrels. If every bullet had a squirrel's name on it, there wouldn't have to be bullets left to kill people. We need a common enemy. It used to be the Nazis, then it was the Russians. We should just kill every fucking squirrel on the planet.
Oh, and I don't want to
hold on. Your union representative is here, and
that idea is nuts. Thank you.
Sorry.
Right. No, it's fine. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just close with this. Listen to Joe's radio station, even though it's only 30 watts. You can get it on the internet, which means it's global. I'm sure the astronauts can get it on the way to Mars as soon as Elon puts them into space. You can get it on your Tesla because you got internet. Listen to BJ SHEA mornings on KISW. How many years long reigning now?
Oh, whatever the math is since 2006. I'm not sure what that math is. But whatever.
You're 18. You're in your 18th year, buddy.
Okay.
Thank you, buddy.
Your show's old enough to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still not old enough to drink.
No.
Yeah.
All right.
But we still can't drink. Damn it! I'd rather have a beer than a gun. Oh wait, we can't have that either because of
Maybe we need to exchange guns for beer. Now that might work. We try this.
Now we could do that, Joe. That's a that's a
beer
rock
for
event.
Bullets. Yeah.
Beer for bullets.
And lastly,
they shoot pop cans with them anyway.
Okay. Lastly, but near and dear to my heart, my brother Spike, who's now doing noon to 3 on Cairo 97.3 with Jack Stein. They're both really incredibly great people. I've gotten to know Jack quite a bit, and a lot of love there. And they don't directly compete with BJ SHEA. So if you listen to those 7 hours and nothing else, you're doing something for love. All right, you guys. Thank you very much. All of you.
So good to be here, boys. I hope I get an invite back, but I think the Andrew and I thing probably never going to happen.
I'll text you about it, but you'll
by the
miss
way,
the message. And,
at some point, if things go poorly, he will end up on the radio, and we'll have to remove this content.
Ouch.
All right. As a comedian. Ouch. Yeah, I'm sorry. See what I just did? I did a BJ. I just spoke my mind without knowing which sponsor I was pissing off. Dave, can you take us out with the jingle? David Lee, behind the scenes, gets everything done.